So last time we were talking about tea history. I mean, tea stories. I cannot really call everything history. What I intend to say, these are all stories. A lot of mythology infused. There are anecdotes. A little bit of history, of course, because all this mythology at the end of the day has some connection with history. So last time I was talking about primarily, I mean, only about China and how it evolved there. But today I'm going to be talking about the history of tea, or the story of tea that we find in India. There are different stories. There are different stories in different. Okay, great. So, Apara Mum. Okay. Hi. Aparajita Ghosh. Yes, I think she has joined. Hi. Hello. Yeah. Good to see you here. Your brother is on the Facebook. So, as I was saying that, last time I was talking about history and stories of tea in China. Today I'm going to talk about some stories and mythologies and myths from Indian context, and all this comes at different timelines in the history. If you can put this in a timeline in history, then it comes in different timelines. So the earliest one, of course, goes back as old as to 7,000 years, and then something around 360 BC, and then something which is much later. But before I get into this, hi Manoj, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. How are things in your place? So before I get into the story part of it, let me give you a little introduction about tea, because it will give you a better understanding of what I'm going to tell you in terms of the stories. So the tea plant. There are two kinds of tea plants. One plant is one plant is from China. It is the origin is from China. So it's called Camellia sinensis. That's a Chinese origin tea plant. In India, you would predominantly find that in Darjeeling area. There is another tea plant which is available, and it's called Camellia sinensis assamica. Why it is assamica? Because it is indigenous to Assam. So it is an Indian tea plant. So what is the difference between two? Camellia sinensis, Chinese variety, are short plants and small leaves. Assam variety is taller and longer leaves. So where do you get the Assamica varieties? You get the Assamica varieties, of course, in India, and then you get this in other parts of India, because it was taken from Assam to other parts of India. Like you get it in South India, in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, in other parts also. Even in some parts of Darjeeling also, lower Darjeeling, we will get some Assamica tea. This is also available in Sri Lanka, in Kenya. This was taken by the British from this. So all the tea types that we know about that India makes, for example, white tea, green tea, oolong tea, and black tea. These are the four kinds of teas that we make in India. And in China, they make white tea, green tea, yellow tea, black tea, and pu'er tea. So all these kinds of tea comes from these two varieties, Camellia sinensis and Camellia assamica. So when, say for example, when 100 grams of tea is plucked, you can decide to make 20 kgs. 100 kgs of tea is plucked, you can decide to make 20 kg white, 20 kg say green, 10 kg oolong, and 50 kg black. So it all is made and processed from the same tea leaf. What is the difference? The difference is in the processing time and the processing method. So the shortest process will give you the white tea, and the longest process would give you the black tea. All right. So these are called whole leaf teas. Sometimes it is also called orthodox teas. Whole leaf teas are also the specialty teas. So whole leaf teas are our white tea, green tea, oolong tea and black tea. Now there is another kind of tea which does not have any of these tea leaves. It doesn't need tea leaves. Say for example chamomile. Chamomile is a flower, but it is infused in water and you call it a chamomile tea, right? Blue tea is very famous these days, very popular, right? What is blue tea? It is again a flower, the butterfly pea flower, or in Bengali we call it Aparajita flower. So that flower is infused in hot water and it's very nice, beautiful blue color you get, and it's very good for your health. Then you have something called rooibos from South Africa. It's again a bush. It gives you a red colored infusion. Then you can have hibiscus, you have lavender, you have jasmine. So these are all teas that you can make, but it doesn't have any tea leaf. What are these called? These are called herbal teas, or it's also called tisane. Tisane is a French word. So in Europe, these are mainly called tisane. Otherwise, it's called herbal teas. In India, many people want to call it karwa. Okay. So when you are sick, you make a karwa of it, right? And eat like a haldi tea or a ginger tea, something like that. So these are two extreme, when there is a tea leaf and other one which doesn't got any tea leaf. So tea leaves are now called tea. The one without tea leaves are called herbals or tisane. Now what happens if you mix these two? You can take a green tea and put jasmine in that. It becomes a flavored tea. You can take a black tea and you can put rose in that. It becomes a flavored tea. So when you blend this together, you can have a flavored tea. So like that, we can create thousands and thousands varieties of teas, right? Because the herbal teas are basically a plant, a part of a plant. It can be the dried plant itself. It could be the roots. It could be the leaves. It could be the barks. It could be the flowers. It could be the fruits. It could be anything. Anything can be a herbal tea. So we have now three kinds of teas: the whole leaf tea, the flavored teas, and the herbal teas. Now herbal teas are well known to India, are very, very well known to India for thousands and thousands of years. Now the earliest record that we hear goes back to almost 6,000 years, and it is recorded in Ayurveda. In Ayurveda, these are called herbal medicines. All right. Now Ayurveda, as you know, is the book of medicine, the ancient book of medicine, and it is considered almost like a Veda. Though it is not part of the four Vedas, it is considered almost like a Veda because it is the way that you treat human body. So you help people recover. So in olden days, the Vaidyas, the people who used to be doctors, were almost like gods. So their technology, which was described in Ayurveda, is also considered as important as Vedas. Now, 6,000 years back, there are a lot of information that we get about herbal medicine in Ayurveda. Now, the herbs were used in two ways those days. What is the one way? One is that you get the tea, get the roots, get the barks, and you mash it and make some liquid out of it and put it in some wounds or give them to people to eat or something like that. So those are not herbal teas. What is a herbal tea? Anytime you put any of these herbs, which I defined as part of the tree, and infuse them in either boiled water or hot wine, it is called herbal tea. Okay, in those days it was not called tea, but that is a herbal tea. So why water? Why hot water? They used to infuse in hot water because normal water may have a lot of bacteria and stuff like that, so it is not healthy. So they will always boil the water exactly the same way the Chinese emperor had said, use hot water. Here also hot water, they will infuse it. And then why wine? Because some of the herbs infused better and gave better results when they were infused in alcohol. So we had two kinds of, if we go by definition tea that I just gave, we had two kinds of herbal teas those days. One is one which is infused in hot water, the other one is in warm wine. Now what is the story now with all these things? Why I'm saying all these things? Now let me go back to the story. The first story that I will tell you is about, it's from Ramayan. Now everybody knows about the story of Ramayan? Everybody know? I'm hoping everybody know the story of Ramayan. So briefly, very briefly, Ram, when goes to forest for 14 years, he was sent to exile for 14 years, and he goes there with his wife Sita and his brother Laksman. Now sometimes during that time, when they had all walked down from Ayodhya, which is in North India, up to Karnataka in a forest area, and they had started staying there, one of the days his wife gets abducted by the king of Lanka, Ravan, right? And Ram and Lakshman, along with the Banar Sena, the monkey army, which he formed from the nearby kingdom of Kishkinda, which is present-day Karnataka, goes to Sri Lanka, goes to Lanka to fight with Ravan and his army and get his wife back. Now during this battle, it's a fierce battle because Ravana is a very powerful king, and he has a very big, large soldiers, battalion of soldiers, while Ram is also not, is a fearsome warrior, and he has a team of the warrior monkeys and things like that. So during one of those battles, Lakshman gets very severely wounded. As you know, he gets very severely wounded, and it was not sure whether he will survive. So the doctor in the Rama's army inspects Lakshman and says there is only one way that we can save Lakshman. And what is the one way? Because Ram has become very sad. He has lost hope. He's feeling very sad. So he said, what is the way? Tell me, I will get it done. So he said, it's very difficult, but I'll tell you. So he said, okay, tell me. So the doctor says, there is a kind of a plant that grows near the Himalayan region, and if you can get me that plant, I think I can save your brother. So Ram says, how can I get you a plant from Himalaya? I'm in Lanka. I mean, it's like 7, 8, 10,000 kilometers away. How can I get you? I will never even reach on time. So Hanuman was always, as you know, Hanuman is always around Ram, and he hears it and he says, okay, never worry. I will get it. I'll get you this in 24 hours. So Hanuman jumps, right? He could jump, he could fly. So he flew from Lanka and came near the foothills of Himalaya and started searching for the plant. But he was confused because he has never seen this plant. So he doesn't know what plant is that. And his time is ticking away because if he doesn't go back in 24 hours, then it's of no use. Lakshman is going to die. So what he does is he selects a small hill in that region where he feels that the plant that are growing there looks similar to the description that he had got, and he uproots the entire mountain and brings it to Sri Lanka. He's a mighty man, right? I mean, he was a very powerful guy. So he brings it back to Sri Lanka and tells the doctor, sorry, I could not find the plant, but I got you the mountain. Go and select your plant. So the doctor goes and he looks around and he finds that plant. It's called Shanjiboni Buti or Bishalla Karoni, whatever way you want to call it. And he plucks that and he takes that leaf, boils it in water, then he throws away the water and smashes it and gives that smashed thing to Lakshman. And after a few doses, Lakshman feels better, and after a few days of treatment, he is as good as new. So that is the first instance in history or in mythology, in Indian context, that a tea was used to help someone as a medicine. Now, why did he do that? I mean, why did he do that? Why did the doctor brew the tea, brew the leaf, and gave the leaf only the smashed leaf, which is brewed with hot water, and threw the water away? Oh, we don't know that. Maybe that is the process. Now, cut back to Gujarat, maybe about some 500 years ago. There were tribals in Gujarat who used to do this every evening, every afternoon. They will brew black tea that is to come from Assam. They will brew that in hot water. And after the brewing has happened, they will simply throw away the water and mix that leaf that has now left after brewing with milk and sugar, make a sweet kind of a food item for them, and eat it every day as their evening snacks. How interesting is that? What is the link? I don't know, but similar ways they have used and have taken tea and tea leaves. Of course, the Sanjibani Booty or Bishola Karani is not tea leaf, but it's a herbal tea. So that's the story from Ramayan. That's the first story that we have. And later on, as we progressed in history, we also find instances that in the royal court, they have people who have visited. For example, in the court of Harshavardhan, the visitors, the dignitaries who used to come from other countries and other places were served some kind of herbal tea or tea as a welcome drink. So it did became also ceremonial, like in China, in India as well. Now, let's now come back to something little more closer to history. Now, this story comes now from a place in Tamil Nadu, and we know this place very well because a very famous sari comes from here. It's called Kanchipuram. Kanchipuram is a place which is very near to Chennai, if you know. And so many years back, during the 6th century BC, there was a king. There's a king. He's a Brahmin king, and he belonged to the Pallava dynasty. So this is history, Pallava dynasty. And this king took up Buddhism when he was very young. And when he took up Buddhism, his master, his teacher, his guru, instructed him to go to China and spread Buddhism. So he decided that he will have to go to China. So what does he do? He doesn't take the road route. He doesn't go from Tamil Nadu and walk northward and cross the Himalayas. He didn't do that. What did he do? He took a boat and he went via the sea and reached China. So on the way, he crossed Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Indonesia, and then he reached China. All right. So when he reached China as a Buddhist bhikshu, he would ask for viksha, and with that he will survive. But after a few years, he decided that he needs to do meditation. He makes a vow to himself that he will do a meditation for 7 years without sleeping. So he makes a vow to him. In those days, people used to make this kind of vows. I don't know why, but interesting. So he meditates for 5 years without any problem, without feeling sleepy, without nothing. But by the end of 5th year, he started feeling sleepy. He could not keep his eyes open. He tried, but he could not keep his eye open. And he became so mad at him. He became so mad and so upset at himself that he cannot even do this simple stuff of staying awake for 7 years, that in anger, he pulls out his eyelashes and throws it into the ground in front of him. And in the next few days, he sees that those eyelashes have become a plant. There are a lot of plants that have grown around him. And he's very surprised. How did this happen? How did my eyelash transform into plants? What are these plants? So he picks up that, plucks some leaves from the plant and puts it in his mouth. And immediately he feels energetic. Immediately he feels like he doesn't need to sleep. He has all the energy left. He can now complete his next 2 years of meditation without a sleep. And that plant is believed to be the first Chinese tea plant that grew out of his eyelashes. Now, this man is called Bodhidharma, and Bodhidharma is the Indian king who visited from Kanchipuram in Tamil Nadu all the way to China. Now, this story that I just told you does not come from China though. This story comes from Japan. This story comes from the Japanese tradition of Zen meditation. Now, what is Zen meditation? Zen is a word that has come from Chan, which has come from Dhyan. What is Dhyan? Dhyan is meditation in Sanskrit. So Dhyan has become Chan, and Chan has become Zen in Japanese language. So this story comes from Japan and not from China. In Japan, Bodhidharma is known as Daruma. Daruma is a very, very, people worship him as a incarnation of Buddha actually. Now let's go back to China. So when he finished his meditation after 7 years, he found that where he is sitting is actually, there is a Shaolin temple. And after seeing him meditating like that for 7 years, the Buddhist monks there wanted him to teach about Buddhism. So he decided to say yes, and he said, okay, I will teach you. Why not? That was my all the purpose that I came here. So he decided to teach Buddhism to these Buddhist monks of the temple of Shaolin. But after a few days, he realized that 3 things: that these Buddhist monks are not very strong in their body. Whenever they had to meditate, they would fall asleep. And number 3, they cannot control their mind. So he found 3 things: weak body, falling asleep, and cannot control their mind. So he thought, what is the best thing I can do? How do I make these young monks, Buddhist monk, how do I make them healthy? How do I make their body strong? How do I make them so strong in their mind that they would be able to meditate? So he does 2 things. One, he takes those leaves from the plant which has grown out of his eyelids and brews them in hot water and makes it mandatory for the monks to drink during meditation. So what happens? They never feel asleep. They always feel extremely energetic. And what does he do next? He teaches them 18 movements, 18 body movements that helps them to balance their body, mind, and soul. 18 body movements. There are different body movements that he teaches them. And these 18 body movements are actually turned into martial arts, into a dance of awakening. This is actually a dance of awakening, and that turned into a martial art, which we now we know it as the Shaolin Kung Fu. Where did that 18 movement came from? It came from the old Indian tradition of Kalaripayattu. It came from Kerala, from Kalaripayattu, and he took that Kalaripayattu philosophy and turned that into what is now called Shaolin Kung Fu. Now the story does not end there only. When Bodhidharma was traveling from Tamil Nadu along the sea coast to reach China, he had, as I said, been to different parts of in different other countries. He had been to Thailand, he had been to Indonesia, he had been to other countries. And it is also believed that Silat, which is a martial art, it's a hand-to-hand combat martial art, also came from his teaching of Kalaripayattu. He of course did not teach them Kalaripayattu. He used the philosophy of Kalaripayattu to create a dance form which was useful in meditation. So, and in Buddhism there is no concept of violence, so it was not martial art. It was a concept of keeping yourself in balanced and taking control of your senses. And he used that philosophy of Buddhism along with the philosophy of Kalaripayattu and created this 18 movement dance form. And rest, as we say, is history. So these are some of the stories where tea played an important role in creating, as we see, that Kung Fu, which made Bruce Lee the household name all over the world. I don't think anybody else. And in fact, if you read the biography of Bruce Lee, he says that how Kung Fu is so similar to dance forms. He was an excellent dancer, if you know that. He was an excellent dancer, and he was an excellent dancer only because he knew Kung Fu. So how a simple cup of tea and 18 movements from India created the martial arts of the world. And in the days when Buddhism was popular in India, there was a tradition of playing this dance format, which is also kind of a martial arts, in the Buddhist temples. These are played in India as well as in Sri Lanka. I think if I'm not wrong, in Kandy, where there is a tooth temple, this there's a tooth temple which is believed that the tooth of Buddha is there in Kandy. There is a tradition of this dance form, which is like a martial art, which is performed even today. If I'm not wrong, I can see my friend from Sri Lanka here in Instagram. He can say, but if I remember correctly, I had seen this dance form happening in Kandy at the Tooth Temple. So that's what today's stories are. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, I'll be very, very happy to answer.